A Place Called Home by Laurie Wick, Chapter 34. Luke stood on the platform until the train was completely out of sight. The sound no longer echoed in his ears, and the vibration beneath his feet was now still. The send-off had been easier than he had hoped. Caroline had been reserved, but not sullen. Frank had praised him for his stables and the fine work he and Silas did. He had promised to try and get up next spring if the missus could come. Luke knew he had some things to get done at the ranch, but if he hurried to the post office, he'd be able to squeeze in a trip to see his grandmother, not once admitting even to himself whom he really hoped to meet. His horse tied out front, Luke opened the door for a woman carrying a box so big it nearly obscured her. A muffled thank you came from somewhere beneath the box as the woman moved out the door and a few steps passed. Luke suddenly realized who it was. Large hands on Christine's shoulders brought her to a surprised halt. Before she could turn, those same hands reached around and lifted her box up and over the top of her head. Even as Christine turned, some sense told her it was going to be Luke. "Good morning, Christine." "Good morning," Christine answered, and reached for her box. Luke let it go. "How are you today?" Luke again took the box from her grasp. "I'm fine. What brings you to town?" The box was once more in Christine's hold. "I was seeing the Chamberses off." The way he had casually stated seeing his girlfriend off, as if he didn't care, made Christine angry, and when Luke reached to take the box again, she stated firmly, "I can carry it myself. It's not heavy." Had Luke known her better, he would have realized that her temper was coming to the fore. Had Luke known her better, he would have realized that her temper was coming to the fore. She had realized he had been flirting with her at the table yesterday, only to go in and sit cozily with Caroline on the couch. That night in bed, Christine had made a decision to stay away from Luke Cameron as much as possible until it was time for her to go home. Now, running into him the next morning was almost more than she could take. Luke, thinking to keep things light, said exactly the wrong thing. "I don't know about you, but I don't know about where you come from, but around here a gentleman helps a lady with her packages." Christine, believing he was playing false with Caroline in the pretense of being a gentleman, let her temper boil over. "I do not need you, of all people, to remind me of the social amenities, Mr. Cameron," Christine gritted out icily between clenched teeth. Luke was stunned. What in the world had he done to anger her? Christine, taking advantage of his silence, said, "Good day, Mr. Cameron," and turned on her heel. Christine seethed all the way home. Her long stride eating up the blocks, she walked and saw nothing. People waved at her, but she missed them. The box grew heavy, but she gave it little notice. "What nerve!" she fumed. "Put his girl on the train 1 minute and forget she exists the next. What a flirt!" Christine stomped up the porch steps. Letting the box slide down until it landed at her feet, she reached for the handle, but the door opened before her hand could make contact. To her utter surprise, Luke reached out and took her box under one arm. With his free hand, he pulled her inside. The door shut firmly, and he spoke. "I will know, Christine, before I leave here, why you are angry." The two faced each other in Grandma M's parlor. Christine's surprise at seeing him did not diminish her anger. Her voice was heavy with sarcasm. "Did you have a nice visit with Caroline, Luke? It must have been hard to put her on the train and say goodbye. I imagine you'll miss her very much." Christine's eyes spoke her disappointment and hurt. Luke finally understood. Her anger was a cover for the hurt she felt. "Christine, there's no commitment between Caroline and me." Christine looked confused before she asked, "Does Caroline know that?" thinking back to the adoration she saw in her eyes. "She didn't when she first arrived, but she does now." Christine couldn't look at Luke. How many times was she going to make a fool of herself in front of this man? Her eyes took in the carpet with great interest as she spoke. "I'm sorry I was angry at you. I have a nasty temper." "You have a temper? I didn't know that." There it was again, that supremely innocent voice and expression that told Christine he was having one on her. To her amazement, she didn't blush. I really am sorry, she repeated, now able to look him in the eye. He was sensitive to her serious tone. I'm sorry too, Christine. There was no way you could have known there is nothing between Caroline and me. Or that my interest is right here in this room, he added silently to himself. Thank you for explaining to me. Considering it's really none of my business, that was kind of you. Aren't you a little curious about what's in the box? Luke was ready to change the subject. Oh, it's a coat. At Luke's questioning look, she explained. Mrs. Hall, a friend of mine at home, wrote that she ordered it for me. Aren't you going to at least look at it? Luke asked, wondering, and then thinking better of it if he should tell her he knew she was from Spooner and who Mrs. Hall was. When the box gave her trouble, Luke slipped a small knife free from his pocket, with a few cuts, had the box open. Christine's hand moved, the wrapping aside, until she spotted a bit of white. Without thinking, she pulled, and out came a lace-trimmed cotton camisole that she held out at arm's length. I wonder if there's been a mistake. Christine looked over at Luke, who was standing beside her. His eyes took a short glide over the very feminine garment before saying to Christine, Well, if that's the heaviest thing you're going to wear this winter, you're going to be cold. With a gasp, Christine realized what she had been standing there holding out for his inspection. Quickly, she shoved it back in the box. She should have known Mrs. Hall would order more than just a coat, especially since it was such a big box. Christine couldn't keep the stammer from her voice as she attempted to right the box to carry it upstairs. It would really make a mess. I mean the box. I should open the rest later. Well, that is, in my room. When she realized how she sounded, she stopped and said, I have to go now. With that, she grabbed the box and ran quickly up the stairs. Grandma M came in some minutes later to find Luke in the exact spot that Christine had left him, simply staring at the space where Christine had been standing. Luke, is everything all right? He turned absently to his grandmother. Did you say something, Gram? I said, is everything all right? A beaming smile broke across Luke's face. Everything is just wonderful, Gram. Grandma M watched him walk to the door, whistling a little tune. He gave her a small wave before exiting. Emily shook her head as she went to find Christine. I wonder if there has ever been a case history of spring fever this close to November.